Channel. Today we're going to be working on this '03 Chevy Trailblazer. Got it for pretty much next to free. Reason why is it's got first and second, no other gears. It's got a couple other issues, but as for the biggest one, it's the transmission. I do have one that I picked up from a swap meet for $100, but it's out of a Tahoe. But I figured it's a 4L60. It might as well be the same thing, just probably have to change the bell housing out on it. So, guess I'm going to get to it. I will show you underneath the truck what all you got to take out. Get the transmission out. It's actually a pretty easy job on these. So, alrighty, here we go. Alright, so I got the Trailblazer jacked up and put on some jack stands, as you can see. Where we're going to start is this cross member right here. And the couple of things you're going to need. I like the impact. Then you're going to need a 15, a 13, and an 18-millimeter socket and a wrench. Then you're going to take all these bolts out. Here, all four of these, both sides. Then you've got a couple of the 18 millimeters up there. Then you've got a canister that's over there that you're going to need your 13 millimeter for. Then that will drop this cross member out. And then once you're done with that, pretty much you can take out the front drive shaft if you want. Got to take this bracket off, unhook a couple of vent hoses and everything. And then this transfer case will actually be able to just come out first after you unbolt it from the transmission. I found that's a lot easier than trying to maneuver everything out together. Then you start taking the bell housing bolts off, torque converter bolts, and pull the transmission out. So I guess let's get to it. I'll get back with you pretty much every step of the way, let you know what I'm doing. So, alrighty, so what I've done so far, besides get the cross member out over there, as you can see, I took the front drive shaft out, put the strap bolts back in there so that way they don't get lost and mixed in with everything else. Other than that, I unhooked the shifter linkage right here and wound it back up on itself. Pretty easy. All you got to do is pull it off of this right here. It just pops off. And then as you can see on here, you've got two little clips that you just push in and it slides back and then pulls out. Now I'm getting ready to take the torque converter bolts out. You've got a little cover right here that you pull out. That way you can get a pry bar in there and you can move the flywheel or the torque converter. And then up here on the front, you've got a little hole right here that you can use to get a 15 millimeter socket up in there and take the torque converter bolts out. So after that, I'm probably going to unhook all of the wiring I can get to. I know there's a heat shield over on this side, kind of to protect it from the exhaust right there. But I don't know if I'm going to take that off. But other than that, I'm going to have to remove the rear drive shaft. I'm going to unhook everything from the transfer case that's right there. And then I'm probably going to pop that off. So, alright, let's get to it. Alrighty, it's actually been a couple of days and I kind of skipped ahead. I got everything taken out because I figured it was going to be a lot easier to show you what to take out without it being in the truck. There's some angles that you couldn't really get to see some of the bolts. Plus, I had to wait for a new torque converter to come in because I didn't really want to put the old one in case there's any metal or anything like that that caused the transmission to go out. So, on the transmission part, you've got a connector here. This one has two. I know on the newer ones, there's only one connector that connects right here. Plus, you've got your two transcooler lines there. Vent tube that goes up to the top. One that's supposed to go back to the transfer case. And on the front of the transmission, to get it apart, pretty easy. They give you a window down here. That way you can look through, see where the torque converter's at, see if the bolt's lined up to get a wrench on it. Or a ratchet, because they actually have a window built into the block that you can see. They have a slit down here. Stick a screwdriver or whatever up in there to turn the flywheel. Plus, you can actually see where all the bolts are at on the front of this bell housing. These two on top, you actually can't get to until you drop the transmission back. So I usually try to get those last. You don't actually have to disconnect the starter on this one, because it's bolted to the block instead of the bell housing. The Trailblazers only have 3 torque converter bolts too, so they make that kind of easy. As for on the transfer case, you got 5 bolts that actually bolted up to the back of the transmission. And then you've got a connector here, one here of the vent tube, this transfer case motor plug-in, one up there. And then you just unbolt it and pull it out. It's actually pretty easy to come out. The worst thing that I ran into is the transmission actually kind of seized itself to the block. It was stuck on the dowels. So, other than that, it was pretty easy. Another thing to remember to do is take your dipstick tube out. It's not bolted to the transmission. It does have a little bolt up on top that holds it in place. Right there. It's that back bolt. So, all in all, I had this taken out of the truck within, it was probably 3 hours, and I was messing around doing other stuff as well. But if you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment. Thank you.